Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'd like to take a minute to welcome Tony DiSarro. He trains in several different styles, of which I'm going to let him explain those to you a little bit later on. But without further ado, I'd like to take a minute to welcome Tony DiSarro. So let's give him a hand, and I'm going to turn it over to him. So, all right, it's all yours, Tony.
All right, well, first I'd like to thank Mr. Vigoro and Mr. Pizzaglia for inviting me to come and do this Zoom session. Two exceptional martial arts in their own right. Both I have a high degree of respect for, and the fact that they want me to be a part of this is an honor. So just a real quick background on where I come from and what I do. Like Joe said, I am from upstate New York, near the capital in Albany. My martial arts journey started when I was 11 years old, and it has taken me on a really great path, and I've been able to meet some exceptional teachers over the years. The primary arts that I study and train and teach are Koshiru Kempo, which is the art that I'll be focusing primarily on in this demonstration. Koshiru is kind of the grandfather art to a lot of other Kempo systems. The person that taught that art originally was a man named James Matose in Hawaii. He taught many different people, and a lot of the Kempo arts that have branched off of Koshiru, such as Kaju Kempo, Ed Parker's American Kempo, Tracy Kempo, Nick Serio Kempo, can trace their lineage back to Matose's first teachings in Hawaii. And so when you see it done, you'll see a lot of similarities between the Kempo systems because they all come from the same tree. So hopefully when I demonstrate today, you guys will be able to get some different insights, but also see a lot of the similarities between what you already do. The other system that I study is Filipino martial arts. I've done some Prezes Arnis and focused primarily on a system called Cabales Serrada Eskrima, which is from Stockton, California, Angel Cabales. It's a very tight-in, fast Filipino system. I trained that with the same person that I started studying Koshiru Kempo with, Bruce Judnick. And I've been doing both of those arts for about 25, 26 years now. The other art that I do is a system called Daito-ryu Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. And that is the parent art of Aikido, Hapkido, Shorinji Kempo. And my teacher in that system is Roy Goldberg Sensei, who's world renowned and one of the top practitioners of the art in the world. And again, all the arts I study kind of complement each other, and I get a lot by training in all systems. So that's a little bit about my background. Those are the three arts that I focus on and that I have teaching certification in. So without getting into talking more and more, I figure we just start a little bit with a demonstration of Koshiru. And if you guys have questions like Mr. Pizzaglia said, just type them down into the chat room and we'll address them during the Q&A. All right, so thank you very much again for having me. All right, so the first thing we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about intercepting movement, when someone throws a punch, how someone attacks. So the first thing we look at is, how does the person set up to hit me, right? So when he starts to set up, see how one side starts to come forward just a little bit? So what I want to do is I want to position myself a little bit off the line, right? So as he moves, I'm able to capture that first lead side. So when he delivers a punch, I'm going to assist that and be able to manipulate his body to set him in position to be able to hit or strike. So I shift, I move that, and then I'm in position to be able to manipulate and hit. All right? Fire it over? No, that's okay. So 1, 2, right? So see how his body gets manipulated as he's starting to move? So I'm taking advantage of where his balance is, right? By stopping this or accelerating the first side that comes forward that has to go back now. So as this comes forward for him to fire that punch, this is just as important in his movement as this side. If I just address the incoming side, I lose time. So I'm going to focus by positioning and maneuvering that hand to set myself in a better position to follow up with my hits and combinations. So here, see, boom, right there. So nice and slow. So I shift and move his body. So now I'm captured to the inside where I can hit and do all my hand combinations from there. So whether I decide to accelerate this movement or freeze this movement dictates how his body moves, right? So this is an acceleration, which sends his body this way and gives me this angle. This is a freeze, which puts me to this side of his body. So by checking this, it sets his body off to my left. By accelerating it, puts him to my right, which each case gives me a better position to be able to manipulate, roll, do joint locks, and whatnot. So I could stay to the inside of his body, right? Or I can go to the outside of his body, all by positioning. And like I said, then you have all of your finger locks, joint locks, etc., right from there. So what we're doing is we're looking at how the body has to rotate to hit me. So you look at the body of his line on his body. His shoulders start to set like this to develop power. By interrupting that movement, it changes the trajectory of his hit. So, like I said, I can accelerate and guide him off this way, or I can freeze and guide him off this way. Now I can take advantage of his lower body. Sorry, hits, right? All right. Likewise, as he's moving, I look at how his feet move. So if I kick to that leg as he's moving, when his weight lands, it creates more damage. If I catch it before it lands, I'm able to throw him or manipulate him. So the whole time we're just playing with where his body is and how he's positioning to be able to hit me. So I can come with a full escape by getting offline. Now it sets him up so where he sees me here as he goes to hit again, I just move offline. Now I've got a better position to hit him and manipulate him. So I could stay to the outside and hit. I can go to the inside and hit, right? 1, 2. 1, 2. So all I want to do is figure out how I can manipulate him so he can't hit me, or move in such a way that it puts me in a position that's more superior to him. So you see how as he's moving, his body gets disrupted? It's a matter of catching him before he's able to plant. So the same thing. He starts to set up. I look at how his body moves. If he doesn't give me this, if he keeps his hand in tight like a boxer, it's okay. Because now I can still address the forward side body coming in. But I want to intercept this hit before he breaks, slow, this line. Right? So if I intercept this punch now, the momentum of his body's already come forward. So instead, I intercept it there. See, now his body's in a position where I can manipulate easily. So when we block, if we block here, he's already finished his movement. If I block here, his whole body's manipulated. So intercepting on the end of the punch is okay if you want to elongate. But you really want to intercept on the beginning of the punch so I can disrupt his whole body. It looks like there's small motion, but all this is capitalizing on when his body moves. Right? That's it. See. I go inside, do the throws, the locks, etc. I can go to the outside. Same thing, locks and throws from there too. And I can work my hand combinations where I'm inside this way, right? So all the fast striking you see in Kempo is a matter of finding where his body is. Right? So now I have a joint manipulation, but he doesn't want to stay there. So as he moves to escape, I go the other way. Again, disrupt the balance, right? No disruption in balance. So he's still strong. Now he's not strong. He's still strong. Now he's not strong. Now he's giving me his fingers, right? So we need to see when we make contact with an opponent, anytime we're touching, there should be a manipulation in our opponent's posture, base, alignment, and balance. If I go here, he's still strong. If I go here, he's still strong. So I need to be able to get to a position to where he becomes weak, right? So striking combinations should be done when our opponent is going between rotations, rather than relying on him to stay there and then do a, see, he won't stay there. He's going to respond. So I need to be able to hit him when he's in between motions. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so one of the other things we look at is joint locks and throws. And what we try to work on is paying attention to how a lock affects our opponent's structure. So if I'm doing a lock, what's happening to my opponent? And by exploring that, it also allows us to figure out how we can respond to it if it's being done to us. So if he does the same lock on me, okay, and I learn to move my body, I'm able to escape and manipulate him to be able to hit. Right? So that's a common finger lock. That's a common lock, right? He turns outward and we get thrown. I want to make him believe that he has this lock, right? And so as he's doing it, he's unaware that my body is changing to manipulate and throw. So it's a matter of me moving and creating a throw on him. I'm good to go. I need to go now. Go. So this lock here puts you right to the ground, right? But if I bring my elbow in and rotate, now it gives me a lock, right? So I bring my elbow back toward me, turn the hand up, and now I have a joint lock here. That's not good. So the lock I just did to him was this lock, right? So the same thing now. If I bring my elbow back and turn my body, I can put him back in that lock. So 1, 2, 3. And all these locks go into strikes, right? So as he's locking, there's a strike, right? There's the lock, there's the strike. So a joint lock really, from a combative standpoint, shouldn't be looked at as a way to control somebody, because combatively, they're designed to destroy the joint right away, right? I'm not going to just go to throw him. I'm going to boom. I'm going to try to break his wrist and then hit him in between. The controlling aspect of locks is really more for arresting techniques, for law enforcement, security personnel, people that are trying to control someone so that they can't move. But on the street, combatively, I'm not going to just try to control him, right? Because he'll hit me. I'm going to break his wrist. And now he's got one less limb to work with to be able to deal with me. So we want to do the locks in between movement, right? So if he's punching at me and I move offline and he goes to punch again and I manipulate, there's the arm break, right? So there's your first lock. If I come here, see, there's the first lock. I go inside, move here, there's the next lock, right? So I'm constantly looking to exploit movement of my opponent as he's attacking me. So same thing, he goes to do the joint lock. Once he gets me to here, it's very difficult for me to counteract that move. So if I get him into this position off that same attack, see, I just turn the hand out and get into the joint lock. If I come behind it and I go back to him, I have the joint lock. If he's punching, okay, and I move here, there's the next joint lock, right? So I'm exploiting, taking his body off balance and capturing that hand that's open to do a finger lock, right? Now I get him up, right? I come here and then throw him right from the ground. I can also disguise the movement so it looks like everyday movement, like if I'm wiping sweat off of my head. So when he punches, I wipe the sweat off my head and come in. Now he goes to move again. I'm going to check the back side of his body, right? So this has to go back, right? So as he turns to hit me, boom, I check this. That sends him into my forearm strike here. So if I'm setting up the movement, I'm moving off line, dropping that, checking this, and hitting him here. Now this is the next hit, okay? So the hand combinations happen because I'm addressing how his body moves and manipulating it to create more power with each hit. So we go outside the punch. I drop this down, but now I'm going to go back to this side. Now, rather than when he punches, blocking his hand, I'm going to draw a line right to his shoulder. So now I have more space and more time to intercept his movement. So I don't want to go here, move, and hit this because it does nothing to his body. So I go from here, and there's a hit in between. So now there's a hit there too. So this is here. That's there, sorry. And then now I'm capturing. Now if he moves again, I follow this line and go right to his head and out of his throat. So all I'm doing is following towards his body how he moves, right? I know that when I'm here, his body's going to turn back to face me. By capturing his body and manipulating, then following this line to intercept this punch, I can move less. I don't have to make a big movement. When he goes to reset to hit me, I follow that line before he resets. Because once he resets, now he's strong. But in motion as he's turning, if I capture that head, I'm able to throw him off balance. It also makes it easier for me to hit him, right? So by dropping this when he rotates, the hit happens while he's turning into it. And he doesn't see it. Now, if I do this, it gives him time, right? So by moving offline, if I bring my hand back here to do the hit, it gives him time to turn to hit me. So instead, my hand comes right up in there, see? And now all the hits are right in position. So I can move to the inside and hit here, right? Takedowns and throws. All of that movement is done based on me trying to get his body off balance. So see where his posture is right now? Rather than, see where his posture is now? So his spine is still upright. He can still move in. So the second that I block him and do this, he's got base. he can intercept, which puts me in a weakened position. So I want to be here. Now look where he is. So now see that open shot is right there because his body is arched back. If I feel him start to move forward to correct it, then I give it to him and I move offline. Now he's off balance for this hit. See? So Kosharu is about manipulating your opponent's environment to make them believe that they're in a position that's safe right before you execute your technique. So you put them in that weakened state just before you throw them, hit them, do a joint lock, which makes it harder for them to counteract what it is you're doing, right? So again, I want to stop him when he is on this line. And in Kosharu, we use something called the Octagon. 8 angles of movement, 8 directions. In American Kempo, it's the universal, it almost looks like an atom. So it's the same concept. When he sets his movement up, you'll notice he starts to rotate one way to follow through the hit. When he gets on stop on this plane, we call this the 1, 2, 3, 4 plane. This is where I intercept the hit. Once he breaks that plane of movement, now I can't hit him effectively because his momentum's coming into me. So this, when he gets to now what we call the 5, 6, 7, 8 line, this is where the throwing and manipulation happens. So he starts to set up his movement, bang, that's when I hit him, right when he's on that 1, 2, 3, 4 line. Because his body is in complete acceptance to that hit now. He's neutral, right? So he's floating, he's off balance. If I want to throw him, I need to capture him when he's past that movement, or I need to capture him before he's able to get to that movement, right? So whether I'm manipulating the side that's forward, that it's going to be the retracting side, or I manipulate the projecting side back into his body, is all dependent on how I respond to his movement, right? Because in fighting, in self-defense, you can never go into it with the mindset that you're going to have a plan, right? There is no plan in fighting. If you go in with a preset plan, your plans generally get foiled. But if you have no plan, they can't foil your plans. So I'm just responding based on where I know his body's going to be. And part of it is setting up how I move, right? So like I said, if I shift my weight to the right, Sean's reality is now that I'm over here rather than here. So by shifting here, when he goes to hit me and shifting back to center, I'm able to move minimally and still connect to his body and manipulate. If I shift this way, right, where I'm to the left, now his attack's going to go more here, which makes it easier for me to go to the inside of his movement. So if I want to move inside his punch, I'll move to the left and then shift back to the right. Then the hits are all right there. If I want to go to the outside, I'll shift to the right and move back to center and then manipulate in through here to the center. How is that, Joe? Is that pretty good for so far?
Yeah. We have like a couple minutes left. If you don't mind, if you could just kind of maybe do a little bit of a close-up on the transition that, I think it was you were going from Nikio or Kodogash. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Kodogash.
The lock transition?
From the throw. Yeah, and then where you reversed it, and then you got out of it, but then where you also reversed it and threw him. If you could show that transition a little bit more up close for that one, and also for Nikio, that was pretty impressive, because I know from my experience that is an unbelievably painful lock. So if I can learn that, So
all right, well, I'll do my best.
Maybe that's. I'll mute the mic, and I'm going to give you like 3 more minutes, and then we'll come back on, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, bud.
You got it. All right. So a closer look at the joint lock reversals and counters. Now, I could show you guys what's happening in the upper body, but because we're doing it close, you can't see that there's a lot more involved with it other than just moving your hand a certain way. It's about body positioning, kind of having the body sensitivity and awareness to be able to know when and how you should execute the movement, as to not excite or alert the periphery of your opponent, right? Because if Andy starts this lock knee kill, right? If he feels me get tense too soon, he's either going to disengage and hit me or he'll do a different lock, right? So I need to make him believe that he's got it. Now, when he gets to here, I relax the shoulder, I fold my elbow out, and I bring my fingertips. So you're in this position, right, Joe? As the lock happens, you bring your body behind where your elbow is, bring the elbow out, and you push your palm forward. And then you bring your elbow down and turn the hand back, right? So my body comes to here, and then my hand goes to here. And now I have this lock, right? Once he gets to a point where he's got my balance, it's going to be very difficult. Now, if he starts to lock now, the other way to counter this is now to bring your elbow down, drop your shoulder, and press your palm into your opponent's chest, right? So now we have this position. So he can't lock me the same way now. So let's go so they can actually see. So see how he starts to lock here? He gets it pinned. So now I can't do this, right? But I can relax my shoulder, drop my elbow, and press the palm down, which still gives me this lock, right? So it's about feeling where you have the room to move, right? Where do I have the room to move? And I can't fight him too soon. If I get tense, now he's got, so when there's tension in my body, it gives him a point of reference to be able to counteract or effectively do something to me. If he doesn't feel anything in me, he has no point of reference, right? So it makes it easy to counteract. If he's doing the other Kotegesh, this one, same thing, Joe. So one of the rules that I go over with people for countering joint locks, the best way to counter a joint lock is to change something on you or something on them, right? So I change something on me by moving my body alignment here, right? So now I have a different position. I change something on me by folding my arm in and out. I change something on him by upsetting his balance. And my favorite from, this is from Paul Yamaguchi sensei, who was one of James Matose's first 5 black belts. I asked him about if they did any joint locks in Koshiru with Matose sensei back in the 40s in Hawaii. He's like, oh, a little bit, but he's like, I show you. He goes, you grab me. And so I grabbed him and he went, boom, and punched me right in the face. So the best counter sometimes to a lock is a simple person. But we're talking about body movement, right?
Right.
I shift my body in a way that allows me to counter where Andy is. And then I hit him from there. So does that make sense? Does that kind of address your question?
Absolutely. That's incredible. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, Tony, is I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to ask everybody to unmute their mics. I think if you go down the side of the chat here, I'm doing it now. There's a few questions in there also. Okay, so yep. So the first one I have here is it says it appears that you work off a square stance, feet parallel initially. Am I seeing that correctly? Is this to give the impression that you are not in a fighting stance to deceive your opponent?
Yes. So it should be understood that everything that I was demonstrating today from a square stance or a flat-footed stance is creating an illusion of being weak or open. If we're in combat, we generally will take on a fighting stance. We guard ourselves, we put our hands up, we're covering our body. But all the same principles and concepts that I went over in this demonstration apply in fighting skills as well. The difference between fighting and self-defense is that the level of surprise or being able to trick your opponent is slightly different, right? Because in a fighting environment, when you have acknowledged combat, both people's level of awareness is heightened. They know that they're in combat. They know that there's a fight. So the reaction time is different. The positioning is different. How they set up movement is different.
Right.
In defense position, if you're the guy that's to be attacked and you don't want the fight, give the illusion that you're able to be hit by them, the attacker then becomes confident and strong to a fault. Because you, while they're not paying attention, are positioning yourself and creating a structure and posture that when they attack, they will become actually weaker. So the square stance is just a demonstration of how you can create minimal movement and still affect your opponent. But it takes a long time to develop the skills to be able to do it from a position like that. And don't be fooled. I am still moving my feet and moving my legs. I'm just not stepping to create the big movement. So that was a good question. Yes, it's kind of to create an illusion.
Right.
What's the next question, Joe?
It says, Salat teaches the separation of bases, moving one base at a time, even though often this is hard to see. Is that the same in what you are doing?
Sort of. So we talk about there's three gates, right? Upper gate, your middle gate, and your lower gate. It's the same thing with the base: lower base, middle base, upper base. When you make a contact point with somebody, even at the upper level, when your hand makes contact, right? If I'm touching here, I still have to manipulate from here. So being strong in my upper body and disconnected from my lower base will give me nothing. But by being strong and connected in my lower body and coming through the arm gives me the ability to do those things. So the disconnecting of bases is it's not about a disconnecting of bases. It's about driving your movement from all three gates, connecting your hara or center with the ground, connecting your upper body, your extremities to your base and to your center to be able to manipulate effectively. Good question.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody explain the gates in that way also too. So that was enlightening for me as well. So anybody else have any other questions? We're running out of time. So anybody have anything else they'd like to ask?
Sure.
I can hear you.
Okay, thanks. First of all, pleasure and honor, like I said always, to be with someone like Tony. I will be short. You mentioned the Octagon.
Yes.
The relation in the Kyosho Kempo with the Kempo, traditional American Kempo, and we use the Octagon for the 8 directions. But since I know, maybe I'm wrong, in the symbol in the patch of Kyosho, the Octagon means something like energy, meditation.
Right, the eight studies. Yep.
Yeah, you have in that meaning you have actually have a healing too.
Yes.
So you work with that too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You find it's a lot easier to get ukes when you're doing healing arts than when you're doing the war arts.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
More people want to have massaged under them than they want to do being hit in the face. Except for Kempo guys, we like getting hit.
Thanks for that.
So what I'll say about the Octagon, and even the universal patch in American Kempo, is that the depth of study on those symbols is much more far-reaching than just physical angles of movement.
Right.
And the movement is not just on the floor or in front of you, but it goes three-dimensionally. It goes from manipulation to throwing to body awareness skills. So there's a lot involved within just 8 directions of movement. So the Octagon as a concept is a very deep concept that 26 years into studying Kosharu, I'm still learning more about it as I study.
Sure, thanks for that.
Sure.
Actually, I know something of the history, and in the 13th century, symbols come from that the original temple.
Yep.
Really interesting information. Always.
Yeah, it's amazing. Coach Rue's got a very interesting history.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. On that note, anybody else have anything else you want to ask or say? No? Okay. So Tony, before you go, so the Daito.
Yeah.
Can you explain I know that history goes back thousands of years also, correct?
1,200 years. 800 AD.
Yeah. Yep. Can you explain that a little bit?
From the Minamoto clan. So Taka Takeda was the person that developed it or taught it openly in the 19th and 20th century. It's a samurai jiu-jitsu art. I will demonstrate 2 techniques in Daito before I go. And then rather than talk about it, you guys can see it. So I'll do 2 techniques, Joe, that's it. Just a demonstration without explanation, and they can see what Daito looks like. How's that sound?
Okay. Good. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
So we'll do that real quick.
It came from, you said from what clan though again?
The Minamoto clan, which
okay.
Again turned their names to Takeda.
Oh, okay. That is just amazing right there, the history.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Here on Sean. Sean. Stand. So it doesn't seem like a likely attack here, right? But I need to attach to my opponent. Oops, sorry. And then control him from that position, right? Grab from behind. There we go. That's what knocked the wind out. So those are 2 Daito techniques.
So,
and that's the reason, and that's the reason you need to feel that now.
All right. I could go on forever with you because I'm really, really intrigued by this stuff, and it just really blows my mind. So but unfortunately we are running out of time. We have another guest coming on. So
yes.
I would love to have you back on the program at some point in the future. God willing, I hope you're able to do so, and you're willing to do so. But in the meantime, I honestly, I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate, filling in today. I know it's a crazy weekend. You got a lot going on at home and stuff. So thank you so much. Really, really means a lot to me for taking the time to come out and share with us today your knowledge, your expertise. I think you touched on some really amazing stuff, and it's not just like you said what we do physically. I love the way you explain things and how you bring the history into it all too. That's just, to me, that's super important, and I think that's great for everybody. So thank you so much for coming on. Tony, if anybody wants to reach out to you for Zoom lessons or seminar or anything else like that, what is the best way for them to contact you or reach you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. My martial arts school page is Capital District Martial Arts Center. You can DM me on a message there, or you can look me up on Facebook. I'm friends with both Frank and Joe, so you can use them as a mutual friend, Anthony DiSarro. And yeah, so there's anybody that's interested, seminars, Zoom classes. If you're out in the Albany area and you want to pop in and just train, let me know, and I'd be happy to facilitate that in any way I can.
Before we close, I want to say thank you to Tony DiSarro, New York, and let's give him a hand, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate the time. Hope that it was educational and informative.